Computer. Hello, welcome back. I'm representing now with the Batgirl shirt. It is officially Barbara Gordon's birthday and also Shagalicious. So Felique MDM Natalim for sure. I just have a bunch of quickies to get through, lots of fear state stuff going on, Babs popping up here and there. I'll spend a little bit of time on Nightwing, but for the most part, I would consider them quickies for sure. So first up, we have Batman Fear State Alpha, writer James Tynion IV, artist Riccardo Federici, and colorist Chris Sotomayor. The event over a year in the making begins. Fear State settles upon Gotham City, and no one is safe. Overwhelmed by the dual threat of the Scarecrow and Peacekeeper Zero One, Batman and his allies have been one step behind since the events of Infinite Frontier Zero, number zero. And with the arrival of a mysterious anti-Oracle and the return of Poison Ivy, Batman might have more than he can handle. So Babs is with Cass and Steph. She's ready to send a message to Gotham, basically to calm them as Oracle and reassure the city when someone actually hacks her slash the clock tower. And as Oracle, as this person is saying, their Oracle tells everyone that Batman is dead and the only one who can save them is themselves. And we're now calling this the anti-Oracle. We then go to Batman 112, The Cowardly Lot, Part 7, writer James Tynion IV, artist George Jimenez, and colors Tomu Mori. A story over a year in the making and set into motion with Infinite Frontier number zero. Fear State begins. Batman played into the hands of the Scarecrow, who has unleashed a coordinated attack on Gotham City through his manipulation of Simon Saint and Peacekeeper Zero One. But there are other forces at work with the emergence of an anti-Oracle spreading fake news. Wow. Across all channels and inciting terror and violence on the streets of Gotham. And there's also a backup with Clown Hunter, which I can skip, but Batman actually gets laid out by Cass. He appears and then she just flips him over. And then he gets caught up by the Batgirls as to what's been happening while he's been going insane, namely the anti-Oracle and that message or their message to the city. And finally, we have Batman 113 Fear State Part 2, same creative team as part 1. Ghostmaker reveals a dark revelation about his past connection to Jonathan Crane, while Batman puts together the pieces of Scarecrow's master plan. Using the Unsanity Collective's technology, the villain plans to detonate a fear bomb in Gotham City. And then the backup is with Clown Hunter as well. The anti-Oracle message is still playing and causing fear throughout Gotham, and Babs is frustrated. She can't shut it down. You just really see her slam her fist down on the table. I feel like because we have yet another Oracle or anti-Oracle or faux Oracle character coming in, this seems to be a hint or a clue that that might be what Barbara is going to be doing from now on, because of course she wants to reclaim her name and the technology. And the best way to do that is to eliminate the other person and become that there so that there is no void. And I think this is also, I feel like there are hints also with Nightwing, just with her suiting up potentially for the last time. And there's some strong, not subtle hints about this. So I feel like this might be it, whether she has her spine or her abilities to walk or not. It seems like we're ushering in Barbara as Oracle full time. That's what I'm thinking with all of this stuff. Then we have Urban Legends number 7, Hunter or Hunted specifically, this story and art by Guillaume Singlin. And in Future State, Cassandra Cain just wants a moment to enjoy a hot meal, but the magistrate's pursuit of her is relentless. And I did want to at least screen share and go through a couple scenes with you guys, just because I thought this was really fun. Just the art, I think, is really unique. I'm trying to think. It looks, oh, I do actually know. Oh, I wonder if it's the same artist. There is a similar art style that I've been reading. Occasionally, it will pop up from time to time in the modern Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, and it seems similar to that. But just, yeah, just the fact that in almost a Studio Ghibli or Samurai Champloo or Cowboy Bebop sort of way. She just wants to enjoy a meal and it just doesn't happen for her. They all come up. It's also Samurai Jack. Like it's got a Samurai Jack feel to it as well. She's eating. There's everyone coming up behind her and she's like, give me a break. Can I have one meal? And then chase sequence, fighting if necessary, more defensive, I would say, than offensive. But I think it showcases Cass's abilities and the fun also I think that you can have as a storyteller with Cassandra. And you don't need, again, you don't need words on a page necessarily. And I think that only works though if you have a great artist. And because the storyteller and the artist are the same, he knew from himself what he was going to do. And I think it really shows in this in particular, which is great. And then, of course, Batman pops up at the end. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun, I would say. Oh, look, even Batman, Batjerk, actually smiles and says, hey, follow me. And then we've got a fun little thing. And then also her costume, which is, I feel like it's slightly different. It almost feels Black Bat esque, but I do love the trail that she has with the almost Ms. Marvel, the Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel with the, I don't know, the scarf or just that material that's floating in there. So just, yeah, super fun story. Not a lot necessarily happens, but I think it's beautiful and it's fun. And I think you get to who Cass is from there. Okay. Next up is Joker number 7, writer James Tynion IV, artist Guillaume March, and colors Arif Prianto. Très bien. The Joker visits Paris. Gordon must get to Joker ahead of the Sampsons, but has the Clown Prince set an ambush for his pursuers. Plus, Barbara fights for her life after her introduction to the new Talon. Punchline backup, the search for Kelly Ness, Punchline's former friend, who is also in Blackgate Penitentiary, begins. Oracle is communicating with Julia Pennyworth, who is in Santa Prisca. And then in the clock tower, Babs has been up all night doing various Oracle things when Steph pops in and tries to help / manipulate her way into a trip overseas. And their object of surveillance, Cressida, looks directly at the camera and Talon suddenly attacks in person. Barbara's gear and computer is sabotaged, but she does throw a battering, and then Cass arrives to fight Talon, and he flees after a beating, and then the girls regroup and realize it was all distraction for Cressida to leave without notice. I think this one I will share as well, just to see a couple things, and it was interesting to see Julia Pennyworth again. I thought that she had died, but I might be, perhaps I'm wrong. But just the way they present her, I thought was really interesting. Okay, we're back. Aye. Just like this was interesting. Number one, I need to stop saying interesting, but it's been a while, I feel, since Barbara and Julia Pennyworth have interacted. And then, of course, this way you've got, or this presentation was pretty cool, 60s style, and saying the name is Pennyworth, Julia Pennyworth. Da-da! Okay. So if we go to the clock tower to look at that a bit, Steph presented well, saying morning, Babs being a bit disgruntled, which perhaps she's getting back into that gruñona or a bit of a curmudgeon role, but it's like 3 p.m, but she's definitely still going. We're Bat people. That still counts as morning, doesn't it? And yeah, Steph just trying to, I guess, help to a certain extent or lighten the mood, and Babs is just not on board for that since she's been dealing with a bunch of stuff. And coffee's out, the devil's juice, and then Talon attacks, quickly disposes of Steph, which is interesting. Babs, I don't know what she was planning on doing. Well, when I look at that case and see how she says, her gear was sabotaged, my eye immediately goes to the top half of her outfit. And I thought, you're really going to take time to change, but also her utility belt and her gun, her Cooper ring, if that still exists, is there. So that's probably why. But she quickly recovers and does that. And then Cass arrives splendidly. I think it's pretty cool. She's getting some good traction this episode and this month, Cass is. And then she's the one who takes on Talon, which makes sense. But I wonder what that says about Barbara, is Barbara only as good as her tools and her tech? That's a little disconcerting, isn't it? But if I do look at fighting, I do think that Cassandra is a better fighter than Barbara Gordon is. But it's just kind of sad that both Steph and Barbara were taken out pretty swiftly. Steph really easily, which kind of, I guess, makes sense in terms of if we look at tiering them in terms of fighting. And then Barbara is quick-witted and she gets something in, but it's really Cass is the one that can go toe-to-toe with Talon. So there you go. And then they regroup, of course, and which is always nice to see all of them and together. And we're going to be seeing a lot of them with the upcoming Batgirls book. And then finally, we have Nightwing 84, which is Fear State Part 1. Writer Tom Taylor, artist Robbie Rodriguez, colorist Adriano Lucas. When the Bat family receives misleading information and incorrect directions from Oracle, ones Babs didn't send herself, they realize Oracle's system has been hacked. But who is powerful enough to break into Oracle's own super secure network? And what personal information is now at risk? Not only that, this mysterious anti-Oracle is taking advantage of Gotham City's state of fear and has bombarded the city with falsities, spreading even more fear. With the Bat team's comms unreliable, Nightwing heads to Gotham to find the source of anti-Oracle's transmissions. A lot about Oracle, even though she doesn't pop up until the very end. Okay. Last one. Okay. So a couple of things I do have to say that we are going old school with Clancy. Clancy has returned. I don't know that she's been around with Rebirth, I guess, or the previous run, but boy, Tom Taylor bringing it back old school. Chuck Dixon, Clancy, pretty interesting. The art threw me off a bit. I might pick a different page to look at. Maybe this, for instance. The art threw me off a bit just because I've been used to Bruno Redondo, but Robbie Rodriguez, after I oriented myself, I really like Robbie Rodriguez. He consistently was the artist for Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider, all of that, the Gwen Stacy stuff over in Marvel, and I like his style. And so I think it fits. I think it's really different than Bruno Redondo. I feel like Bruno Redondo has a really clean style where everything is very distinct and separate. And Robbie Rodriguez, I feel like, is kind of like punk rock style, if I were to describe it, just were like lots of colors, which I know we've got a colorist, of course, but lots of dynamism and movement everywhere. And I think even like movement within the lines themselves. So less clean, but I think like it's got the rock there. Okay, the other thing, let's see, there was a bat jerk situation here. Yeah, a trap. Come on, Nightwing. Oh man, yeah, isn't that pretty cool? That's just something you wouldn't necessarily see, I think, from Bruno Redondo, where I'm on the page, it says page 13, where Batman's actually coming down onto a perp. But let's see here. There was a couple positive situations here with Batman. Just trying to find them here. They're having this discussion And you're needed in Bloodhaven. So Batman's just wondering, why are you in Gotham City? And you're doing an effective job in your new home. And so effective basically from Batjerk is, as good as it's going to get. And even Nightwing in his narration box says an effective job, that's practically gushing praise from Bruce. But Nightwing wants to keep on helping, which makes sense given that it's Dick Grayson. The anti-Oracle business is coming up, so that's going to be the mission. He even says, I'm sure Barbara will value having you at her side, so Batman knows what's up. And Dick thanks Bruce for helping him out there. And Bruce says, I know you could have handled that situation alone. Dick says maybe, but it was still appreciated. And I guess that was the alley, if you know what I'm saying. And then he says he wasn't going to let that happen to his son. But yeah, there was just nice moment from Batjerk and between Batjerk and Nightwing, which I really liked. So then, of course, he goes to the clock tower. He updates Babs. She wants to find out who hacked her system. I will say that this one panel, I'm on page 21, where he's actually in there and says that this anti-Oracle lured him to certain death. And she says, what? Are you okay? The panel, the art itself does not fit how that line is being delivered and what is being delivered. She's just calm as a cucumber. She could have been saying anything else. Just more facial demonstration, or maybe a mouth open like, what? Are you okay? And yeah, so she's had it. She's had it. She gets up from the chair, the proverbial and literal chair, and she's deciding she is going out there. And Dick says, we can do this low tech, radios only, and you stay here and I do the legwork there. And she's like, absolutely not. These people, the system I built is being used to hurt the city and my friends, my family. And so she is gearing up. And then we have the revelation, which of course we already saw, but the actual revelation in context or in situ here with this particular suit. The suit, now this is interesting because Bruno Redondo is the one who designed it. And then, of course, we have Robbie Rodriguez's interpretation of that particular design. And in that case, those two don't necessarily match. I would say that it looks, with his extra lines, his punk rock art style, looks like it's a bit baggy, but it's just something to get used to, I think, especially just this outfit itself. And it's interesting that she has a bow staff as a side weapon. Normally, she doesn't really necessarily have weapons or defensive armaments with the, Eskrima potentially when she's Oracle. But this, yeah, it's almost like an amalgamation of, or maybe that's not the right word, but almost, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So Barbara Gordon, now Batgirl, is in a Nightwing book. So she's going to do as Nightwing does, which is have a bow staff potentially. And it seems to be made from similar weaponry as Dick's, since it looks like there's a connection going on here at this bottom page of 22, where it looks like two pieces are actually together, and then she's got that. So I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, this was the revelation, the bow staff and everything, but it would be nice in Nightwing 85 that there might be some sort of explanation. I don't know if people would find that boring, but I think it would be, number one, interesting, and number two, worthwhile, and number three, necessary to explain, hey, what's up with this costume? Why the bow staff? That kind of stuff. So here is hoping. But yeah, this is her fight. So that's why, again, I was saying, page 22, I said it was not subtle that something may happen. So he actually says, when she's back changing and saying, no, I'm coming with you, he says, Babs, there's a hostile army on the streets and you have experimental technology holding your spine together. Just tell me what to look for and where to look. And so throwing that out there, I mean, unless you're a terrible writer, which Tom Taylor clearly is not, throwing that out there, I think you've got to make something happen with that. So you don't just throw out, hey, there's this, remember that stuff that's going on with your spine, unless something is going to happen. I think basically that's like a Chekhov's gun situation. So with the anti-Oracle, with her trying to stake her claim and will reclaim what has been taken for her. And also this might be her last ride. So I feel like last ride for Batgirl, Oracle full-time after Fear State. So that is my guess. You can quote me on that. Okay. So lots. That was probably the most that I've done in a while of quickies and modern stuff. I'm excited for December when I can pick back up and do an actual book with the Batgirl. So that'll be really exciting. I did forget last month, episode 210, that there was a Batman Secret Files Huntress and Barbara appears, but she's in a wheelchair. So I wasn't sure about continuity there. Somebody actually asked me about it and I said, oh no, she can walk. So I'm not sure what the secret files are doing, what their purpose is, and when/where they're occurring. But I did forget to mention that. Okay, next up is anime watch list. I watched binged it. Fruits Basket season 2 has 25 episodes. Just I think 2019 Japanese and then 2020 for the English dub. And remember, I feel like I said this before with season 1, but the English dub is the same cast as the original Fruits Basket. And then Fruits Basket season 3 has just come out, I think September 11th. And I've been holding off, sort of a delayed gratification, but I'll definitely be speeding through that as well. So a year has passed since Toru Honda began living in the Soma residence, and she has since created stronger relationships with its inhabitants, Shigure, Kyo, and Yuki. She also has grown closer to the rest of the Soma family and has become familiar with their ancestral secret, having helped them with many of their personal issues. The closer Toru gets, however, the more she begins to realize that their secret holds a darker truth than she first presumed. Summer is approaching, and Toru is invited to spend her days with the Somas, mainly Kyo and Yuki. Toru wishes for an easygoing vacation, but her close relationships with the two boys and the rest of the Somas may prove to cause trouble. As they grow more intimate, their carefree time together is hindered by older hardships and feelings from the past that begin to resurface. The eternal banquet also dawns on the members of the Zodiac, and they must tend to their duties alongside the unnerving head of the family, Akito Soma. Terrible, terrible human being. Oh, and then you never know, completely androgynous character, but you feel like Akito is male because of how much they hate women. But then there's a big bomb that's dropped near the end of season 2 that Akito is actually female. So now you're just like, what sorts of issues are there that would cause this? With the banquet approaching and a plethora of feelings to be solved, will Toru's life with the Somas remain peaceful, or will she find herself in a situation from which she cannot escape? I really can't recommend enough that show. So, and I'm just so glad that they're doing, I guess, the whole anime, right? So season 3, because Fruits Basket, the original one, which was probably back in like 2001 or something like that, was only one season. So this is going far beyond that. So I'm excited. Because you're asking, though I know you're not, I definitely ship Kyo and Toru, and I guess we'll see what happens there. And then my final segment is literature recommendations. I actually cannot remember what I last said. So, I think it was If We Were Villains, because I gave that 5 stars. Okay, so I read Clara, probably Clara, and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. And let's read what the synopsis is, because otherwise I may have trouble actually describing what's going on. From her place in the store, Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse and of those who pass on the street outside. She remains hopeful that a customer will soon choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Clara is warned not to invest too much in the promises of humans. In Clara and the Sun, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore a fundamental question: what does it mean to love? Wow, that didn't really tell you much at all. She does get purchased by this family. She has this really close relationship with this daughter, and the daughter is sick, and Clara does all she can to help heal the daughter, and she feels like the only way to do that is with the son. So there are several missions, and then better understanding this world, lots of world building going on by Ishiguro, and it's interesting having the POV from this artificial friend, this AF, because there are many things that from her perspective, this is what's happening. And from ours perspective, we're like, well, what is actually going on? Like, she talks about different boxes that she sees. And this is almost like cameras or other AIs that'll separate their vision into different boxes so they can zoom in on different things. I'm sure we've all seen it in sci-fi stuff. So something like that, or talking about this particular machine that causes pollution, or there's a genetic remodeling that the daughter goes through. So some things that are not really cleared up because the AF, she's just kind of living her life and it's not necessarily explained to her. So it's not explained to us. So some uncomfort or discomfort, but it's almost good because it's a change from being inundated with information and backstory and things like that. You just have to kind of figure out what's going on or sit in your discomfiture. Then I read The Air Affair, which is a Thursday Next novel, the first one by Jasper Ford. And this is Great Britain, circa 1985. Time travel is routine. Cloning is a reality. Dodos are the resurrected pet of choice. And literature is taken very, very seriously. Baconians are trying to convince the world that Francis Bacon really wrote Shakespeare. There are riots between the Surrealists and Impressionists, and thousands of men are named John Milton, in homage to the real Milton, and a very confusing situation for the police. Amidst all this, Acheron Hades, third most wanted man in the world, steals the original manuscript of Martin Chuzzlewit by Charles Dickens and kills a minor character who then disappears from every volume of the novel ever printed. But that's just a prelude. Hades' real target is the beloved Jane Eyre, and it's not long before he plucks her from the pages of Bronte's novel. Enter Thursday Next. She's the special operative's renowned literary detective, and she drives a Porsche. With the help of her uncle Mycroft's prose portal, Thursday enters the novel to rescue Jane Eyre from this heinous act of literary homicide. It's tricky business. All these interlopers running around Thornfield, and deceptions run rampant as their paths cross with Jane, Rochester, and Mrs. Fairfax. Can Thursday save Jane Eyre and Bronte's masterpiece? And with the Crimean War, will it ever end? And what about those annoying black holes that pop up now and again, sucking things into the space-time void? And I really like this. This is a lot of fun. It is really smart. There's so many literature or literary references that I would say several of them definitely flew over my head. Probably some that I knew were a reference but didn't get it, and others that I probably just completely missed. But Jane Eyre, it's interesting because the original manuscript in this novel, Jane ends up going to India as a helpmate, not a married helpmate, with St. John Rivers. And then by the end of this, we get it back to how it should be with her coming to Ferndean, basically, and marrying Rochester. But yeah, just really smart. And I actually just started today the second novel. This was recommended by someone, and because I love Jane Eyre, and luckily it did not disappoint. I also read God of War Volume 2, Fallen God by Chris Robertson but probably Robertson and Tony Parker. And that wasn't as good, so I don't necessarily recommend that. Silk Volume 1, Threats and Menaces by Maureen Gu and Takeshi Miyazaki. Really liked that, especially if you're a fan of Cindy Moon. I recommend it. And that was the most recent. It's 2021, so don't think it's a different Silk volume. And then Invisible Woman, Partners in Crime by Mark Waid and Mattia de Ulis. And that was, I would say that was okay. Spy. It was completely different than what I would have expected an Invisible Woman novel or graphic novel to be. It was, yeah, lots of espionage with Sue, and then someone from her past and a past mission, I guess you could kind of say. And yeah, so that is what I am reading. Okay, well, remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. Find the show on Google Play and Stitcher. Really, I should change that. You can find the show anywhere. I've been actually listening to it kind of at work on Spotify because I've been going through all 200 plus episodes and writing down in an Excel document what music I used. So, what a task to do, but that way I won't repeat music, which I did in the past, and it makes me sad when I'm going through this and I see that I repeated things. But anyways, there you go. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter at Batgirl the Oracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, which you are viewing. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And until next time, fly on, Babs lovers.